What up, though? And welcome to another episode of Dummy in Recovery, where I diagnose original posts from the AITA subreddit to see if they are, in fact, a dummy or if they've got what it takes to be a doctor. A dummy in recovery, that is. What's up, Doc? I'm your host, England, but you can call me Dr. Diva. And today, Diva stands for Don't Ignore Vital Advice. We've got a wild one that might make you rethink that last hotel reservation. Now, are there any doctors in the house? Because we are about to get into some serious relationship surgery. Today's case involves a woman who's wondering if she's a dummy for being upset that her husband shared a hotel room with another woman during this trip to Vegas. Now, we got to dig into the juicy details, so let's get into it. Here's what OP, let's call her wife with the questions, had to say. I'm a 36-year-old female married to a 42-year-old male who is currently in Las Vegas for a national bowling tournament. He's there with his moms and her friends, folks from their bowling league. He is an avid bowler, bowls in a Tuesday night league, often in state tournaments and sometimes in national tournaments. Typically, I go with and sometimes bowl myself. This year, we decided I would not go. Instead, I would stay home with our three boys, ages 4, 8, and 10, due to the heat and smoke in Vegas in July. My husband and I have been married for 11 years. This is his second marriage. His first marriage failed because he walked in on his wife cheating on him with another man. I have never, not once, thought he would ever be intimate with another woman while he was with me. He's just not that type. Okay, let's pause right there. Hubby's been burned before. He knows how it feels to be cheated on. That should mean he's extra careful, right? Let's see what happens next. So, on to the trip. Typically, when he goes on a trip without me, at least once a year, given my job and time off limits at my work, he stays in a hotel room with his mom or our boys. 3 nights ago, I was on FaceTime with him while he was in his hotel room. It was really nice, and he was talking about possibly taking a nap for lack of sleep. I asked him if he had his room to himself because that would have been really awesome. And he said, "Oh no, so-and-so is sharing with me." I asked who so-and-so was. I don't remember what he said aside from she. And I said, "Wait, what?" And then he went on to explain that he was supposed to share a room with his mom's boyfriend, but plans changed. And now he's sharing a room with another woman on the trip. Told me that I played cornhole with her last month at a get-together. I reminded him who I played cornhole with, him and a girl, but not that one. I didn't know the name that he gave me. I had no idea who this woman was. At which point he got very confused. He did not understand why I was upset or frustrated. So I dropped it because I did not want to deter him from his bowling or the time that he had to take a nap. I know I should have asked how he would have felt if I would have done the same thing and the roles were reversed, but I didn't. Partly, I didn't want to fight. We hardly ever fight while my kids were up. And partly because I didn't want to hear him chalk it up to my imagination.
Dummy.
I have hardly slept since that night, and my dreams have been chock full of worst case scenarios. And I still have not really brought it up again. There have been a few occasions in which he has talked about naps and how lame he is in Vegas. I have mentioned a few times, sort of sarcastically as an aside, that he would be having more fun if he were sharing his room with me, or if I was there instead of his present company. But he brushed all of it aside, so here we are. He has spent the last 3 nights in a hotel room with a woman that's not me or his mother. Am I the dummy for being upset? User Supa Sophia, or Sup Sophia says, Not a dummy for being upset. Your husband is sharing a hotel room with another woman, and this situation raises valid concerns and insecurities, especially given his past experience with infidelity. While he may not have ill intentions, it's understandable you're feeling anxious. His confusion about your reaction and his dismissive attitude towards your concerns are not helpful and can further fuel your insecurity. Johnny Guitar says, look, if Mickey is a 60-year-old lesbian, okay. If not, then yeah, I'd be worried too. Whoa. There is a lot to unpack here. It's obvious that OP's husband is trying to push her feelings aside. Some would even say gaslight her. You can tell OP is trying to keep the peace, but there's something bubbling under the surface. If I were her, I'd be feeling some type of way too. But let's not make a diagnosis just yet. On to the update. Our girl, OP, decided to follow up, and here's what she had to say. Okay, so I took some advice and grew a backbone. I texted him a little while ago instead of waiting until he got home. He and our boys are leaving for another trip tomorrow. I could not get the time off work, so I wanted to make sure we had a conversation fully before he left again. Before I give the update, I want to make a couple of things clear. I do trust my husband. He has never shown he would be the kind of person to cheat, and that is not what truly concerns me, even though I did have some pretty unpleasant dreams. My issue was that he was not upfront and honest with me. If I had done the same thing, he would have lost his mind, understandably. That is why I started the post with, he's just not that type. We do generally have great communication. The issue is,
got to be a dummy.
The issue here is that I like to have this kind of conversation face to face rather than over the phone. It's just not something I like to hash out while we're not in the same space. Obviously, in this situation, I should have made an exception and have done so now. Okay, so OP is trying to clarify things with us. She trusts her man, but it's the lack of communication that's driving her up a wall. Honestly, y'all, that's a valid concern. No one likes to feel left out the loop, especially when it comes to something like sharing a hotel room with another woman. User Sammy Hammy 24 says, I've been married for 35 years and I know for absolute sure that my husband is 100% loyal. I still would have been upset at him sharing a hotel room with another woman. Your husband knows it is wrong. If it isn't, why didn't he tell you about it to begin with? Sorry, it seems obvious that he's cheating on you and he's trying to make it seem as if you're unreasonable to be unhappy about it. Okay, now back to OP's update. I texted him to tell him that this situation has been bothering me for the last 3 days. I had questions and he needed to answer them. I asked who the woman was, how old she was, and why he didn't tell me about the situation before I found out by accident. There was a mix-up with the room, something about someone not going, so people were shuffled. He was paired with a woman about my age. He said he didn't think it would be a big deal and didn't want to inconvenience everyone else on the trip. He also said he did not want me to get upset, which is why he didn't right out tell me about it. He did tell me I had nothing at all to worry about, and he made sure they weren't in the room alone together outside of them going to sleep. I know, but really, I do believe him on this.
Dummy.
I was honest with him and told him that if the roles were reversed out of respect, I would have called him right away to make sure he was okay with it. I told him that while I trust him implicitly, I should not have found out the way that I did, and he should not have blown off my concern. I told him that the lack of upfront communication felt suspicious, regardless of intention or what actually happened. As for not upsetting me, I told him I would have understood and not been upset if he would have been honest. He has apologized profusely. I told him next time just communicate. He is adamant there will not be a next time. So call me naive if you want, but I dropped it at this point. He will be home this evening, and I intend on having a nice evening with him before I don't see him again for another 2 weeks. Thank you in advance. I cried it out when I found out her age, but getting this off my chest has been very relieving. All right, doctors, it sounds like OP had a tough conversation and got some answers, but did she get the closure she needs? I'm not sure, and neither is she, because we've got another update coming right up. But first, have you considered starting your own podcast or YouTube channel? I think we all have something to say. And with over 8 billion people on the planet, there are plenty of people to listen. So check out our sponsor, Seven Figure Podcast. Click the link below to learn how to make your voice heard. Now, let's dive into the next update. Here we go. I am not handling this as well as I thought I was. I had decided to let go. I know he wasn't doing anything with this other woman. You can disagree and call me crazy if you like, but I do know that. However, as much as I have tried, I can't get past the fact that he has made the decision to do something he knew I wouldn't be okay with and not tell me about it. It just feels so messed up. I have talked to a few of my coworkers. I don't really have any friends that aren't friends of his that I talk to on a regular basis. And there is no way I will talk to my family because this is a storm I can't handle right now. They are all shocked and more angry for me that I have let myself be. Most of them know him and the kind of person he is and what ended his first marriage. He used to work at the same company. We had less than 24 hours together before he, his mom, and all of our 3 children took their trip to the other side of the U.S. I have been sitting in my feels and will continue to do so until they get back almost another week from now. I was on the phone with them this evening before they went to bed, and one of the first things my husband said to me was, "I'm sharing a bed with the redhead tonight."
Got to be a dummy.
And I almost came unglued before I realized he was talking about one of our boys. We have 3 sons. After a long pause, I said, "You better be talking about blank." And I was so angry, I didn't understand how he didn't pick up on that. Every conversation we have had has been short and to the point. I'm really just not interested in talking to him. I have been calling my oldest son and talking with my boys instead. His mom hasn't really said much to me, which makes me think he's said something to her, which is fine, of course. I really don't care about that. Bottom line is, I don't know what to do. It is midnight at home. I've tried to go to bed for 2 hours and just could not stop sobbing. So I got up and let it go. It felt good to get out, but I know I need to talk to someone. I have support lines through work I can call, but won't tonight. Far too many drinks, and I don't want to bring that into it as well. But I will call tomorrow. I know I should be upset and angry and not let it go, but I'm afraid when I do talk to a professional, they will say I'm blowing it out of proportion. I will still call, but I need to get my head straight first. He is bicycling over 7 days, over 400 miles. As much as I want to tear him a new one right now, after his complete insensitivity and clueless joke this evening, I have not, because I want him to get home safe and sound. Regardless of my feelings in the moment, the most important thing is that my child's dad comes home safe so we can hash this out, at least in the same city, and not while he's 1,000 miles away with his mom and my children. Y'all, this is getting heavy, okay? Her trust is seriously shaken, and it's clear that her husband's handling of the situation has left her feeling even more confused and hurt. Background_system 726 says, definitely too soon, not a dummy, and good luck. By the way, if any professional tells you that you're overreacting, I would be wary of them. You are 100% entitled to feel your feelings. and be upset about this situation. No _ thanks _ 1766 says, so gross. It feels like the joke was to downplay what he did with the coworker or with the co-bowler. It's insensitive, manipulative, and downright disrespectful. Okay, we're at the final update. Let's see what OP leaves us with. I hope she's doing better. I apologize for the late update. My health took a pretty drastic turn for the worse for a minute. But no worries, all is good now. And I had a really good talk with my doctor about putting myself first, and she's getting me in touch with a counselor. Now for the update. It's barely an update, and I'm sorry for that. When I finally did get him to tell me what he wanted to say, he ended up saying it in front of our boys anyway. He only brought up 2 things I had talked to him in the novel I had sent him. The first was that I was going to look for a counselor. He said he loved that idea, that it really helped him when he was talking to one. Then he brought up that I mentioned how much weight I have gained since the birth of our last child. He said that he still finds me crazy attractive, as should be evident by the fact he still shows up in bed. Or then he started talking about what I shouldn't be doing if I wanted to lose weight, and apologizing for the fact that he and the boys had ridiculous metabolisms and don't have to worry about it. I asked him to stop trying to give me weight loss advice. That wasn't the point of me telling him. I asked if there was anything else he wanted to say, and he said no, just those 2 things. So at this point, my husband didn't cheat on me. I do know this is true. I am still not in a good place because of so many things happening at once. So I am seeking help. Thanks for the advice and support from most of you. But this is my last post on this. I won't actually be able to work on my marriage reading some of these responses. Woo, y'all, this is a lot. Like a lot. Okay, so user complete-design 5395 says, his idea of treating you with love and respect and honor is to make up for his many missteps, is to try and tell you to be less fat. Honestly, I was like, that's what he has to say? Damn, he really got away with everything. User -Mom5 says, he won't change because he's got a doormat, not a wife. He does not have to change. She will bend herself into knots to rationalize his horrid behavior. Swallow whatever bullshit it takes to convince herself he didn't cheat. Why would he change? Okay, but here's the real question. Is OP the dummy for not speaking up and making herself heard? Or is she a dummy in recovery for trying to navigate her feelings while remaining optimistic? Let's break it down. Here's the analysis. Here we go. It's time for the final diagnosis. And let me tell you, for the first time in the history of dummy and recovery, we have a certified dummy.
You big dummy.
Dare I say, in the words of the late, great Fred Sanford, you big dummy. Let me break it down. Why OP is wearing the dummy crown today. First off, OP, girl, you let this situation spiral out of control by not addressing it head on when it first came up. Your husband straight up told you he was sharing a room with another woman, and instead of setting boundaries and expressing your concerns right then and there, you chose to stay quiet. Communication is key to any relationship, and by not speaking up, you let doubt and anxiety fester. That was dummy move number 1. Next up, you kept letting it slide, even when you knew something felt off. You tried to make sarcastic comments instead of just confronting him directly. Girl, sarcasm isn't a substitute for real talk. If you're feeling some type of way, you need to address it with your partner, not let it simmer under the surface. That was dummy move number 2. And finally, you let yourself spiral into a mess of sleepless nights and worst case scenario without actually getting the clarity you needed. You let your fears take the wheel instead of steering the conversation towards the truth. By the time you finally confronted him, you were already so deep in your own head that his explanation couldn't calm you down. That was dummy move number 3, and it sealed the fate for your diagnosis as a certified dummy of the day. So there we have it, my dear doctors. OP, today, you're not a dummy in recovery. Oh no, you're just a plain old dummy. But hey, we all have our moments. The good news is that you now know where you went wrong. You can start working on being more upfront and direct in your relationship. Remember, if something doesn't sit right with you, it's your job to speak up. So take this L, learn from it, and next time, don't be afraid to say what's on your mind. You got this. And who knows, maybe one day you'll be a doctor too. But today,
You big dummy.
so there you have it, doctors. Herstory is made. This is the first certified dummy in recovery history. If you've got a case you want me to diagnose, drop it in the comments or hit me up with a suggestion. And don't forget to follow the doctor's orders. Fill that prescription by subscribing, smashing the like button, and sharing this episode with our fellow doctors. Until next time, remember, in a world where you can be anything, don't be a dummy. England.